So, good morning. Actually, I'm going to open this up, but I want to tell you a few housekeeping things. First off, tomorrow, baptism. We've got 35 people being baptized. 2 of our guys are going to be telling their stories. So that's going to be it's going to be a great day. You want to sit back there? Good. Secondly, next week is going to be our last week of the year. I know it's weird to think that, but Christmas and New Year's falls on Saturday this year. It's that rare time when it does happen. So next week will be the last week. And so many of you, if you remember Hank and I when we did the Blues Brothers, if you haven't seen it, you all go watch the video on YouTube. But next week, Hank and I are doing something special.
Handing out gifts.
So you're not going to want to miss that. Invite your friends, your family, your neighbors. It'll be It'll be a men's breakfast that they'll be talking about for a while.
It'll be mowed. I know Larry knows.
See? Yeah. You know, it's funny that you say that. We've been trying to get no.
Were you right there?
I know. Hey, we try to have a good time. You know, I thought back as we were preparing for the end of the year, I thought, man, so much has changed this year. So much in this group has changed. So much has changed in our lives. And I've watched so many of you guys over this past year move closer to God, open yourself up to what those possibilities are, what really could be happening in your lives, embracing change. And I think that's the biggest thing that I've seen myself. I think personally, I've watched myself go from focused on being a good father, a better father, to becoming a grandfather. I know, I look so young, I understand. And the different and a great grandfather right here. and watching all of those things happen and realizing that my purpose has changed. Things that weren't important 6 months ago, things that I wasn't focused on 6 months ago, now that's changed also. And I think that's the same way it is in our purpose with God. What God's purpose is in our life. I don't think our purpose always stays the same. We have to always be looking. What are you doing around me, God? What's my purpose right now? I mean, I know with Jack's life has changed so much this past year. From retiring from the phone company to signing up, and now he's going to be attending seminary. That's a huge change. God's changed his purpose. So today, Steve Collins is going to come up here and talk to you guys about what the change is, what the purpose is in his life.
Thanks. Christian, can you hand me my book and that Bible? Thanks. Good morning, guys. You know what I got? You know what I got, H?
5 words.
Thank you, Hank. Thank you. All right. Well, I'm gonna save that for later in this talk. But you know, it's about purpose in our lives and kind of reflecting back on this year and what God is doing and what God has done in your lives. And I want you guys kind of like, you know, be thinking in that direction. And but what I really want to tell you is kind of a story for me and how God has kind of opened up and the things that have happened as far as that goes. And I'm going to go back to it was actually a few years ago when I decided to go through divorce care. Now, I had been separated for about 5 years. I had been divorced for about 3 years, and I felt like I had worked this process out, right? So, but I wanted to go through this to make sure there wasn't anything that I missed. You know, I wanted to make sure that I had really, you know, followed through on all the things I was supposed to do in honoring God. And when I got in there, I realized something. I had more to offer to the people that were sitting at my table. And then, see, so God started working this thing in me, and it was just like, well, wait a minute, yeah, I have covered these bases, and people would just talk about stuff going on, and God had given me some words to share with them through my own experiences, through what His Word says, and just maybe just a bit of knowledge for them at that time, or a word for them at that time. And so I went through that, and then that was over with, and it might have been another year. And Jack had had taken over divorce care from Diane Welling. And for some reason, God had prompted me, because I remember each week it's a different topic, and in each week, I believe Diane would speak about whatever that topic was for that week. And God had placed in my mind that I needed to talk about forgiveness, because I had gone through this process of forgiveness. And I wasn't part of divorce care, but I told Jack, I said, can I just show up? It's week 11, because God has really prompted me to do this. And he's like, sure. So I showed up, and I talked to this group, and I don't know how that transitioned, but by the next time this started, I was a leader in there. And man, it really felt good, because, see, I had gone through this process. I'm taking these steps. See, I've been in a number of ministries over the years, and I really felt like I had a purpose here. I felt like I had something to offer and to contribute and to give. And you know, I look at, there's one of the guys that went through that, Scott. He's not here, but the first person I ever baptized was Scott. And the reason was I didn't bring him to Christ, but I met him in divorce care. And he told me that I had such an impact on his life and changed where he was going in the direction that he was going, that he had asked me to baptize him. You know, and there's that time and that moment when you're walking with God and you really feel His favor. And at that moment, I did. God had used me to touch another man's life. I met Ray Vesey in there. There's a number of you guys that I have that are going through this stuff that God has put in front of me. And I was living out that purpose. I was living out that purpose. But there came a time when Jack was talking about, had shared with me about, glad you came today, we're all talking about you, Jack. It's good that you're here. Jack had felt that God was leading him to go back to Connecticut, the New England area, where he's from, and you know, he's going into seminary, and he had thoughts about being a pastor, you know, there, if that was the direction, but he was really struggling with that, because he didn't know that he really wanted to do that. To give up what he had here to move there was really a big step, and he has his family here and his girls here, and what would that mean? And but there came a point in his life at that time that he just said, all right, God, whatever you want me to do, I'll do. And through a series of events, it didn't work out. Okay. But God was just, Jack feels that God was just asking him, seeing if he would obey. And sometimes that's all he wants. He wants us to say, yes, I'll do that. And it's kind of a test to see where we're at. Well, during that same time, being in divorce care, and Jack leaving, and this may be me thinking a little more of myself than I should have, but I thought that if he left, they were going to ask me to step in and lead this thing. And it scared me. And all of a sudden, I had made, about a year ago this time, I had made this, you know, confession and all that kind of stuff, and I shared it with guys, and guys were coming up with me seeking, an opportunity to confess things in their life, and I was in divorce care, and things were going really well, but the thought of that had me back out. And I used an excuse that, excuse me, engage 2 days a week. I meet some guys on Friday, and now with this ministry starting with Don Tordoff, with these guys wanting to come and confess, and I just need to cut something here. I got too much, and I chose that to be divorce care, where God was working in my life, where I was seeing guys' lives change. And when I heard the story from Jack, we talked about it a little last night, that may not have been what God wanted me to do. And I really believe God just wanted me to say yes. He didn't say that I was going to be in that place, but He wanted me to see where I was with Him. James chapter 1. Verse 2, it says, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith develops perseverance." See, at that moment, God was showing me where I was. And it was, I chickened out. I had it in my sight, and I didn't pull the trigger. And I had this fear, and all of my insecurities rose up. All my thoughts of self-worth, of being able to actually have something to contribute, my past, all those things kind of just kind of caught up on me, and I chose a different route. Now, like I said, I used excuses. I got engaged. I got all these other things I can do. But in the middle of watching God work in my life, in the middle of having my eyes looking at Jesus, I took them off for a minute, and I looked at myself, and I looked at what might happen, and I stepped away. And while it wasn't a good moment in my life, at the same time it was, because see, God does afford us those opportunities. Those trials, they are to see where we are in our faith. It was a testing for me. And while I failed that test, I also learned something. Okay, because God does have a purpose for our lives, and we kind of find these things out. That ministry with Don Tordoff, I was trying to kick the door in to be part of that confession, seeing people change their lives. Some guys had come to Christ who thought they were Christ followers for years. Some guys, this guy Bob, man, he came in there, confessed, and then all of a sudden he took off with his hair on fire, driving from Pennsylvania down to Florida, mending every relationship he had ever broken. And I was just trying to push in on this thing, but God didn't want that for me. I had done my part. I had gotten up and I had spoken to you guys about what it means to confess.